Wendel stopped him dead in his tracks. Undressed and Wendel firing punches. So watch now, he better wait for the officials. Colbert is a late fighter. Yes, he sure is. Clark and Colbert.
Alright boys, it's time we talk about one of the toughest, most beloved players in Maple Leafs history, Wendel Clark. If you ask Leafs fans who their all-time favorite player is, chances are Clark's name comes up a lot. And unlike some players today, this guy had a mustache that matched his badass play style and heart. This legend's story begins in Kelvington, Saskatchewan. Wendel Clark was born on October 25th, 1966. From the moment he started making noise in junior hockey, people knew he was built different. He played a physical, tough, and skilled game, laying devastating body checks, dropping the gloves without hesitation, and still managing to light up the scoreboard. In fact, because of the way he played, many thought he was better suited as a defenseman, which is exactly what he was in juniors. And a damn good one at that. Playing for the Saskatoon Blades, Clark was a force on the blue line, even captaining Team Canada to a gold medal in the 1985 World Junior Championship. From 1984 to 1985, in just 136 games, he put up an insane 55 goals and 100 assists for 155 points. That's well over a point per game as a defenseman. So it came as no surprise that the Toronto Maple Leafs drafted him first overall in 1985, their first time securing the top pick until 2016 when they would select Austin Matthews. But here's where things get interesting. The Leafs didn't see Clark as a defenseman. They saw his raw, offensive skill and physicality and decided to convert him over to a forward. People thought the Leafs were crazy for doing this, but as we know now, they were right on the money, and a star was born right out of the gate. Clark wasted no time making an impact in the NHL. As a rookie, he had 34 goals and 11 assists for 45 points in just 66 games, all while accumulating 227 penalty minutes in the process. He wasn't just scoring, he was throwing hands with anyone who challenged him, proving that he was one of the toughest SOBs in the league, even as a rookie. Clark helped the Leafs sweep the Blackhawks in the playoffs and pushed the St. Louis Blues to 7 games in the Norris Division Finals. He finished the playoffs with 5 goals and 1 assist in 10 games, plus another 47 penalty minutes. His incredible rookie season earned him a spot on the All-Rookie team, an All-Star selection, and a second-place finish in the Calder Trophy voting behind Gary Suter. The Leafs had themselves a star in the making, and he wasn't slowing down. In his sophomore campaign, he upped his goal total to 37 and added 23 assists for 60 points in 80 games, along with 271 penalty minutes. In the playoffs, he put up an impressive 11 points in 13 games, while also racking up 38 penalty minutes. Unfortunately, the Leafs were eliminated in the Norris Division Finals again, this time by the Red Wings. Then came the setbacks. In 1988, Clark played just 28 games due to injuries, but still put up 12 goals and 23 points, proving he was as effective as ever when healthy. But without their main source of toughness, the Leafs fell to the Red Wings in the first round. The next season would be even worse. Clark only played 15 games. At this point, his career was at serious risk. Doctors even advised him to retire due to severe knee and shoulder issues. A hockey legend in his own right, Glenn Sather also advised Clark that his style of play wouldn't allow him to last in the league. But Clark, who was only 23 at the time, wasn't just about to give up on his dreams. He would go through 4 hours of physical therapy a day for 6 months just to make a return. Even when he did, he had to constantly adjust his routines, his equipment, even his sticks depending on how his body felt. And this is the level of dedication that separates legends from the rest. Clark refused to be a what-if story and fought his way back, extending his career by another 10 seasons. Clark missed a full year between February 1988 and March 1989, and by 1990 he was back, scoring goals, fighting, and hitting, despite injuries still limiting him. In 1991, Clark finally played a majority of the season, suiting up for 63 games. He made his presence felt with 18 goals, 16 assists, and 34 points, along with 152 penalty minutes. However, the struggling Maple Leafs failed to make the playoffs, leaving Clark without a shot at postseason action. The following year, injuries once again limited his time on the ice, cutting his games played down to just 43. Despite this, Clark remained a force, tallying 19 goals, 21 assists, and 40 points. He was nearly at a point per game pace, while piling up 123 penalty minutes. The 1991-92 season also became a defining moment in Clark's career, when the Maple Leafs officially named him team captain, solidifying his role as the heart and soul of the franchise. The 1993 season would be a thrilling ride for Leafs fans, one filled with hope, excitement, and unfortunately heartbreak. With a much healthier Wendel Clark back in the lineup, he played 66 games, tallying 17 goals, 22 assists, and 39 points, while amassing 193 penalty minutes. And in the playoffs, his presence was a force on the ice, embodying the grit and determination that defined the team's unforgettable run. So the 1993 playoffs were pretty crazy. Clark was a beast, fighting everyone, scoring clutch goals, and taking the Maple Leafs to Game 7 of the conference finals. He put up 10 goals and 10 assists for 20 points in 21 games. But unfortunately, most of that was overshadowed. After Glenn Anderson's heroics in Game 5 of the Clarence Campbell Conference Finals against the LA Kings, Toronto held a 3-2 series lead, and they were just one win away from their first Stanley Cup final since 1967. If you ask most Leafs fans, this was the year. And in Game 6, it should have been Wendel Clark's moment. He was unstoppable, netting a hat trick, including 2 clutch goals to tie the game 4-4 and force overtime. The Maple Leafs were on the brink of history. Then disaster struck. In overtime, Wayne Gretzky would high stick Doug Gilmour right in the face. A clear penalty, but referee Stevie Wonder somehow missed it. No call, no power play, no ejection. Instead, moments later, Gretzky would bury the overtime winner. And in Game 7, Gretzky finished the job. A hat trick, a dominating performance, a crushing end to the Leafs' magical run. Toronto was pretty much robbed of a dream Stanley Cup Finals against the Montreal Canadiens, a battle that would have been absolute cinema. Yet, despite everything, the 1993 playoffs may have been the finest stretch of hockey Clark ever played. And if that postseason was his greatest, then the 1994 season would stand as his most impressive regular season performance. In only 64 games, he put up a career-high 46 goals and 76 points. He wrapped up the season ranked 10th in the league in goals, and had he played a full schedule, he most likely would have hit the 50-goal mark. The Leafs would make it back to the conference finals, but this time, they went out in a less dramatic fashion. The Canucks would take them out in 5 games, but Clark would still put up 16 points in 18 playoff games. Then, out of nowhere, the Leafs made a trade that would shake up Toronto. On June 28, 1994, Clark, a first-round pick, Sylvain Lefebvre, and Landon Wilson were sent to Quebec. In exchange for a first-round pick, Garth Butcher, Todd Warner, and Matt Sundin, leaving Leafs fans stunned. Sure, Sundin turned out to be one of the greatest Maple Leafs ever, but at the time, trading Clark, the heart and soul of the team, was a PR nightmare. From a business perspective, it made sense, Clark's trade value was at its peak, and with his injury history, nothing was guaranteed. It was a ballsy move, and Wendel Clark was now a Nordique, though not for very long. During the lockout-shortened 1995 season, Clark played 37 games, racking up 12 goals and 18 assists for 30 points, while surprisingly managing just 35 penalty minutes. In 6 playoff games with Quebec, he would also add 1 goal and 2 assists for 3 points. But as many of you know, 1995 marked the last season the Quebec Nordiques would play in the NHL before relocating to Colorado and becoming the Avalanche. Amid the shift in team management, Clark would find himself in the middle of a contract dispute with the new Avalanche brass. Before long, he would be traded once again in a 3-way deal. Steve Thomas went to the Devils, Clark's rights were sent to the Islanders for Claude Lemieux, and we all know how big that trade ended up being for Colorado. Clark would end up signing with New York, but he would only spend a half season on Long Island. In 58 games, he played pretty well, tallying 24 goals, 19 assists, and 43 points, along with 60 penalty minutes. And then, deja vu? Kind of? On March 13th, before the trade deadline, Clark was sent back to the Toronto Maple Leafs, along with Matthew Schneider and DJ Smith, in exchange for Darby Hendrickson, Kenny Jonsson, and a 1997 first-round pick. A first-rounder that would eventually become future Hall of Famer Roberto Luongo. This trade may not have aged well, but for the time being, all was good in Leafs Nation. Their beloved leader was back where he belonged, once again wearing the white and blue. Energized by returning to Toronto, Clark was on fire in the final stretch of games, putting up 15 points in the last 13 games of the season. He would also add 2 goals and 2 assists in 6 playoff games as the Leafs faced elimination at the hands of the St. Louis Blues. In 1997, it was business as usual for Clark, 65 games, another 30 goals. But after one more season with Toronto, he decided it was time for another change and joined the Tampa Bay Lightning. On July 31st, 1998, Clark signed with the Tampa Bay Lightning as an unrestricted free agent. While he had some solid performances and even made the All-Star team, the Lightning just weren't good. After 65 games where he scored 28 goals, 14 assists, and 42 points, he was once again traded at the deadline, this time to the Detroit Red Wings, who were looking for a three-peat. Unfortunately, Clark was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. He recorded 6 points in the final 12 games of that regular season, but the Red Wings would be eliminated in the second round by the Colorado Avalanche. And once again, Clark missed out on the Stanley Cup. By 2000, now a free agent once again, Clark inked a deal with the Chicago Blackhawks. However, his time in Chicago never really clicked. After only playing a handful of games, the Hawks released him, and of course, he returned to where it all began, Toronto. But at 34 years old, much older, and after years of injuries, Clark's impact was limited. In just 20 games, he recorded 4 points. But true to form, he raised his game in the playoffs, though the Leafs' run was cut short after just 6 games to the eventual Stanley Cup champion New Jersey Devils. And on June 29, 2000, Wendel Clark officially retired as a Toronto Maple Leaf. After 14 years in the league, giving everything he had, playing every game like it was his last, it was clear that the toll of injuries had finally caught up with him. As all good things must come to an end, the time had come for Clark to step away. His legendary career, marked by unforgettable highs and heartbreaking lows, had finally reached its end. In 793 career games, he scored 330 goals, 234 assists, 564 points, and racked up 1,690 penalty minutes. And in 95 playoff games, he had an impressive 37 goals, 32 assists, and 69 points. Not too bad for a defenseman turned forward who was once told to retire early and that his playing style wouldn't last. It's very rare to find a player as universally respected as Wendel Clark. He wasn't just a player, he was a warrior, a fan favorite, a legend, and one of the greatest hitters hockey has ever seen. Even on his off nights or when battling injuries, no one, not even Leafs fans, ever criticized him, because he was Wendel Clark. And to earn universal praise from Leafs fans, you have to be something truly special. And that, my friends, was the story of the NHL player who was tough as steel, Wendel Clark. And that's gonna wrap it up for today's video, boys. With the Leafs' lack of heart and soul in recent years, sorry Leafs fans, I thought it'd be fun to take a trip down memory lane and revisit the heart and soul of the franchise, Wendel Clark. So let me know, boys, do you think the 2025 Leafs finally have what it takes to make a deep playoff run? Or will this just be like every other year? Drop a comment below. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. As always, like, comment, share, and subscribe for more, and I'll catch you boys in the next one.